Pokémon, I became a principal and hired Liu Bo as a teacher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Unknown Creature. Under the reflection of the morning sun, the expedition team passed through the dense forest, taking every step carefully. In the woods, the trees are towering and the vines are twining, seemingly hiding endless secrets. Ellie held the green leaves in her hands, and her little steps landed lightly on the soft moss. The team members around him cooperated tacitly, and there was no unnecessary communication between them, because they knew that this task was extremely dangerous. In the distance, a strange wild Pokémon suddenly jumped out and tried to attack them. Ellie immediately waved the scepter in her hand, and the plant's vines grew rapidly, trapping the wild Pokémon. Quick, take advantage of the opportunity to move forward. Ellie shouted loudly, and the team members seized the opportunity and accelerated their pace. They know that this wild Pokémon may be just a small threat, and greater challenges may be waiting ahead along the way. The expedition team encountered many unknown creatures and natural obstacles. Sometimes it's a giant spider in the forest, sometimes it's a flying stonefly, and they have to overcome all odds. Keep moving forward. Ellie's green leaf Pokémon also played an important role, and its plant magic helped the team overcome many difficulties. In the distance, an open area appeared in front of them. There is an ancient ruin there, exuding a mysterious atmosphere. The expedition team walked into the ruins and found that the walls inside were carved with ancient runes and patterns. Ellie stared at these runes and had a clear understanding in her heart. These runes seemed to be related to elemental gems. Maybe there are clues here. She began to decipher the runes, trying to find any information about the gem. The team members also searched separately and explored every corner of the ruins. Suddenly, a team member exclaimed, "Dean, there is a secret door leading to the underground." He pointed to a hidden switch on the ground. Kong Xian's eyes flashed, and he immediately went to check. Sure enough, at the ground switch, a crack gradually opened, revealing a dark passage. Kong Xian took a deep breath. He said to the team members, "Let's go on. Maybe this underground path will lead us to find the answer." Ellie and the other team members followed closely, and they entered the underground path, where darkness enveloped them. Only the faint light of the green leaves guided their way forward. The passage is getting deeper and deeper, and it is getting quieter and quieter. There seems to be a mysterious atmosphere surrounding this place. Suddenly, a huge stone door appeared at the end of the passage, with ancient runes carved on the door. Kong Xian and Ellie stepped forward and tried to decipher these runes. Ellie frowned slightly and said, "These runes are telling an ancient legend, telling how the power of 4 elemental gems distorts a person's mind." Kong Xian took a deep breath, and he understood that this might be related to the elemental gem in his hand. He gently pushed open the stone door, revealing a huge underground space behind the door. In this space, there is an ancient altar. At this moment, a powerful wave of energy suddenly emerged, and the space under the ground began to tremble. A mysterious force seemed to be triggered. The members of the expedition team raised their weapons nervously and looked around vigilantly. Suddenly, one side of the wall in the underground space cracked, and a group of men in black walked out. Their eyes were cold and they held weapons in their hands, as if they were here to snatch the elemental gems. Faced with this sudden threat, Kong Xian protected Ellie and other team members. He calmly said, "We can't let them succeed." Chapter 277 Be obedient and hand over the gems. The leader of the men in black sneered and said, "Kong Xian, do you think you can stop us? Hand over the elemental gems, otherwise you will be responsible for the consequences." The battle is about to break out, and the atmosphere in the underground space is extremely tense. The leader of the men in black had a cold light in his eyes. He walked toward Kong Xian and Ellie without fear, with the weapons in his hands ready. The members of the expedition team also stood closely together, forming a solid line of defense. Kong Xian looked at the man in black, his voice calm and firm. "This elemental gem is very important to us, and we will not hand it over easily. Tell me, why are you so coveted?" The leader of the men in black sneered, "Dean, you don't need to know our purpose. You just need 937 to be obedient and hand over the gems. Otherwise, you will pay the price for your stubbornness." At the same time, Ellie silently stared at the elemental gem in the stone container. She could feel the mysterious power it contained, as if calling her. She knew the importance of this gem could not be ignored. The men in black began to approach the expedition team, and the atmosphere became tense. Suddenly, a wild Pokémon that had never been seen before rushed into the battlefield. It had flame-like skin, a slender body, and lightning speed. This Pokémon was obviously controlled by the men in black, Bef, and became their weapon. Both Kong Xian and Ellie frowned slightly. They had to face the threat of the black man and this wild Pokémon at the same time. Kong Xian said to the Pokémon, "My friends, protect the gems and prevent them from getting it." The Pokémon responded and started a fierce battle. Kong Xian waved the scepter in his hand and released the power of the wind element, forming a whirlwind shield to resist the attacks of wild Pokémon. At the same time, Ellie's green leaf Pokémon released plant magic, trying to restrain the wild Pokémon's movements. The leader of the men in black fought against Kong Xian. He had a powerful fire element ability, and the flames burned in his hands, forming a fiery attack. Kong Xian dodged the fire attack, trying to find an opportunity to counterattack during the battle. The scene was extremely fierce, the figures of Pokémon flickered, and the power of various elements intertwined in the air. Ellie's green leaf Pokémon gets tangled up with a wild Pokémon, and she fights to protect the gem from being taken away. Kong Xian fought against the leader of the men in black, and their elemental abilities confronted each other. Kong Xian instantly released the power of the earth element, forming a solid stone wall to block the fire attack. Then, he used the power of the wind element to launch a powerful wind blade attack, repelling the man in black. The leader of the men in black roared angrily. He did not expect that Kong Xian was so powerful. However, he did not intend to give up easily and continued to attack the gem. During the fierce battle, Ellie suddenly felt the emotional fluctuations of the green leaf Pokémon, and she understood that the green leaf Pokémon needed her help. She conveyed her wishes with magic, and the green leaf Pokémon responded, releasing more powerful plant magic, completely binding the wild Pokémon. Wild Pokémon can no longer move, and the momentum of the man in black has been severely restricted. Kong Xian took the opportunity to launch a counterattack, using the power of the elements to force the man in black back. The leader of the men in black clearly felt defeated. He issued a retreat command under rival, and they hurriedly left the underground space as fast as the wind. Period. Chapter 278. You did a great job. However, the withdrawal of the men in black did not calm the tense atmosphere on the battlefield. Kong Xian and Ellie were still on guard, and the gems still shimmered in their hands. The surrounding Pokémon did not relax their vigilance. They knew that the enemy might attack again at any time. Yuang slowly approached. Her eyes were deep, as if she could see everything. She looked at Kong Xian and Ellie, and then said, "You did a great job and successfully defended the elemental gems." Kong Xian nodded slightly, still with a tense expression on his face. "Yuang, why did they covet this gem? We need to know the purpose." Yuang frowned, pondered for a moment and then said, "This gem is not an ordinary thing. It contains the balancing power of Yanhuang continent. If it falls into the wrong hands, it may cause disaster. I have heard legends about it, but there's not a lot of concrete information." Ellie sighed softly. She looked at the gem and felt a sense of responsibility in her heart. "We cannot let this gem fall into the hands of evil forces. But now, we must consider how to keep it safely." Kong Xian nodded in agreement, and then said to Yuang, "Yuang, I need help from the college. We need a safe place to keep the gem. At the same time, we also need to know more information about the gem in order to better protect it." Yuang thought for a moment, and then said, "I will discuss with the elders of the academy to see if I can provide help. As for the information about the gems, I will send some Pokémon to investigate and collect relevant information for you as soon as possible." At this time, a young Pokémon came to report, "Dean, Ellie, we found some clues left by these men in black." He handed over a sealed envelope. Kong Xian took the envelope and opened it. There was only an unfamiliar map with a mysterious location marked on it. Kong Xian frowned. "Where is this place? Is it their base?" Yuang took a closer look and frowned slightly. "This location seems to be uncommon, but I can send Pokémon to investigate, and maybe I can find more clues." Ellie looked at the marks on the map, feeling an inexplicable uneasiness in her heart. "Maybe we should go and find out, and we can't let the men in black continue to act recklessly. Why? Please give me flowers." Kong Xian took a deep breath and finally made a decision. "Okay, we will go to this place to find out the truth. But before that, we must ensure the safety of the gems. Yuang, please contact the elders of the academy as soon as possible. We need their support." Yuang nodded, and then said, I will handle it immediately, and I will also send Pokémon to investigate this location. Please take care of yourself, 00. The Pokémon began to split up. Some went to notify the Academy, and some were ready to follow the clues of the man in black. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang stayed where they were, still guarding the gems vigilantly. Time passes quietly, night falls, and the stars shine on the earth. Kong Xian stared at the gem, and he could feel the faint energy emitting from it. Ellie stood quietly aside. Her mood was complicated, and she was worried about the uncertainty of the future. Suddenly, Yuang broke the silence. Kong Xian, Ellie, I just received a response from the elders of the Academy, and they agreed to provide support. A Pokémon force will come to assist us, and at the same time, they will also send Pokémon to investigate that mysterious location 5. Chapter 279 The Guardian of Wisdom. Kong Xian breathed a sigh of relief. This is good news, we will not fight alone. The most important thing now is to ensure the safety of the gem, and then we can go to that location to find out the truth. The time spent by Kong Xian, Ellie and Yu Ying vigil passed slowly and quietly. The stars twinkle in the night sky, and with a breeze blowing, leafage makes a rustling sound, as if nature is also waiting for their fate. Suddenly, a slight bird call 887 broke the silence. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang all raised their heads alertly and stared at a huge ancient tree in the forest. With a trunk like an iron tower and dense foliage, this is an ancient giant tree on the Yanhuang continent, known as the Tree of Wisdom. From the canopy of the giant tree, an ancient Pokémon slowly descended. Her skin was as pale as snow, and her eyes were as bright as stars. She is the guardian of the Tree of Wisdom and one of the sages in the Pokémon world. The guardian of the Tree of Wisdom nodded to Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang, and then began to speak in the ancient language. Kong Xian, Ellie, Yuang, I know you are facing a major challenge. That gem is the Yanhuang continent. It is a guardian object that contains the power of the 4 elements and maintains the balance of this world. Kong Xian was in awe, and he knew that the words of the guardian of the Tree of Wisdom should not be taken lightly. Guardian, we will make every effort to protect the gem to ensure the peace of Yanhuang continent. Ellie also expressed her firm determination. This gem will not fall into evil hands, and we will do our best. The guardian of the Tree of Wisdom nodded slightly, and then continued, the power of the gem is far more than that. It has a mysterious attribute that can awaken the ancient gods of the Yanhuang continent. But because of this, it has become the target of many forces. Yuangfa asked, Guardian, can you answer some questions for us? Why do the men in black covet it like this? What is their purpose? The eyes of the guardian of the Tree of Wisdom stare into the distance, as if they can detect time and space. The purpose of the men in black is not simple. They represent a powerful force. Covet masters the power of gems to realize their ambitions. But the specific motivation, I have no way of knowing. Kong Xian frowned. We must find out the forces behind the men in black and stop their conspiracy. The guardian of the Tree of Wisdom nodded. Yes, but you must be careful. The power of the man in black is extremely secretive and unfathomable. Going to that mysterious place is a dangerous road, and you must have enough energy and wisdom. Ellie asked, Guardian, can you provide us with some help? The guardian of the Tree of Wisdom smiled and shook his head. I can't intervene directly, but I can give you the blessing of the Eye of Wisdom. It will help you see the truth clearly and guide you on the way forward. Yuang said gratefully, Guardian, thank you for your help. The guardian of the Tree of Wisdom reached out and gently touched the foreheads of Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang, conveying the power of blessing. The 3 of them felt a warm energy flowing into their bodies, and the blessing of the Eye of Wisdom began to take effect as the blessing was received. Kong Xian 1.3's eyes seemed to sparkle with more wisdom. Ellie felt a deeper connection, and Yuang's perception became more acute. They know that this is the power given to them by the guardians for their mission. The guardian of the Tree of Wisdom said, Now, you should take a rest and set off tomorrow morning. Go to the mysterious place, find out the truth, and protect the gems. Chapter 280 It's time to go. A new day comes quietly, and the first ray of sunlight penetrates the gaps in leafage and shines on Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang, waking them up. Kong Xian stretched out and felt the blessing of the Eye of Wisdom still flowing in his body, and his thinking became clearer. He stood up and said to Ellie and Yuang, It's time for us to set off and go to that mysterious place to find out the movements of the man in black. Ellie nodded in agreement, and she was ready to go. Moonshadow has also joined their ranks. and she will continue to help protect the gems while sending Pokémon to investigate. The three of them left the vicinity of the Tree of Wisdom and embarked on a new journey. They passed through the green woods, crossed a clear stream, and walked step by step towards the unknown destination. On the way, they encountered a group of wild Pokémon, which are natural spirits on Yanhuang continent and live deep in the forest. These Pokémon flew around Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang, curiously observing these uninvited guests. Kong Xian smiled at the Pokémon, his heart filled with love for this continent. He said to the Pokémon, "We are here to protect Yanhuang continent. I hope you can help me, eh?" Pokémon flew onto Kong Xian's shoulder and said in a clear voice, "Elder, we are willing to assist you in protecting this land." Ellie also felt the kindness of Pokémon. She said, "Thank you for your support. We will do our best to protect this beautiful continent." Yuang communicated with the Pokémon and prepared a plan to send some Pokémon to investigate. The Pokémon spread their wings and began to prepare for action. They will search for clues in the woods to help Kong Xian and his party find out the whereabouts of the man in black. Along the way, Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang came to a vast grassland. In the distance, an ancient stone tower stands on the skyline, as if it is a witness of time. Ellie pointed to the stone tower and said, "That mysterious place is near the stone tower. We should go there quickly." Kong Xian nodded in agreement, but he looked around warily and felt a strange smell spreading in the grassland sky. Suddenly, a black shadow passed through, soaring in the sky, and approached them quickly. A huge raptor swooped down, its claws as sharp as knives, aiming directly at Kong Xian. He quickly dodged and avoided the raptor's attack, but the raptor did not give up and continued the chase. Ellie and Moonshadow took action immediately, summoning their Pokémon partners to start a fierce battle with the raptors. The Pokémon quickly shuttled through the air, releasing elemental energy in an attempt to subdue the raptor. Not to be outdone, Kong Xian condensed a burst of emerald energy and transformed into a powerful Pokémon. This Pokémon has wings and sharp claws. It is mentally connected to Kong Xian and obeys his command. 047 Fierce battles between raptors and Pokémon take place on the grasslands, and the air is filled with fire, water, storms and the elemental power of the earth. Kong Xian stared at the raptor, trying to find its weakness. In the end, Kong Xian's Pokémon performed well and successfully subdued the raptor, trapping it in an energy cage. The raptor let out a shrill cry, then gradually disappeared and turned back into an ordinary bird. Kong Xian breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that this raptor might be a test sent by the man in black. He said to Ellie and Yuang, "We have to go to that stone tower as soon as possible. The purpose of the man in black may be there." Chapter 281 The Mysterious Power. Ellie and Yuang nodded. They reorganized their team and continued moving forward. The Pokémon on the grassland also followed, protecting Kong Xian and his party. Finally, they came to the ancient stone tower. The stone tower towers into the sky, and ancient runes are carved on the wall, exuding a mysterious atmosphere. The door of the stone tower was open, as if to welcome their arrival. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang stepped into the door cautiously and immediately felt a mysterious power surrounding them. The hall is filled with an ancient atmosphere, and the walls are covered with ancient scrolls depicting the legend between Pokémon and the elements. The floor is covered with contest's carpet, and the magic lantern emits a soft light. Yuang frowned, and she noticed a faint trace of energy on the ground, which seemed to be left by the man in black. She whispered to Kong Xian and Ellie, "Be careful, it doesn't seem to be empty here." Kong Xian nodded. His perception also started to work, and he tried to capture any potential threats. Suddenly, a figure walked out of the corner, wearing black clothes and a mask. Mysterious and threatening, the man in black walked towards them slowly, his voice low and cold. "Kong Xian, you are finally here. I know you have the synthesized elemental gem in your hand. Hand it over, otherwise you will bear the consequences." Kong Xian's brows frowned slightly. He did not respond immediately, but observed the actions of the man in black. Ellie stared at the man in black warily, holding her weapon in her hand. Yuang tried to find the energy fluctuations of the man in black, but the energy of the man in black seemed to be well shielded, making it impossible for her to detect it easily. She whispered to Kong Xian, "His energy is very weird, and I can't accurately judge his strength." Seeing that Kong Xian did not agree immediately, the man in black sneered, "It seems that you still want to play some tricks, but in vain. You will all become part of my plan." Having said that, the man in black suddenly launched an attack, and a wave of dark energy surged towards Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang. His movements were fast and sharp, Clearly an extraordinary rival. Kong Xian held the staff in his hand tightly and released a ray of emerald green light, blocking the attack of the man in black. He said calmly, "We will not hand over the gems, and your conspiracy will not succeed." Ellie also launched an attack, and her Pokémon partners turned into water, trying to surround the man in black. However, the man in black was agile and easily dodged the attack and then counterattacked. Mooney's Pokémon partner releases a bolt of lightning, striking the man in black. But the mask of the man in black seemed to have special protection. Thunder Shock only formed an arc in front of him and did not cause any substantial damage to him. The man in black mocked, "You are too naive. Do you think I will be intimidated by these little tricks?" He waved his hand and released more powerful energy fluctuations, forcing Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang back. Kong Xian knew that the situation was not optimistic, so he decided to use more powerful spells. He concentrated his energy, condensed, Jalise, into a huge emerald green energy ball, and then launched it towards the man in black. The man in black was startled by the power of the energy ball. He hurriedly avoided it, but the energy ball tracked him and kept getting closer. Finally, the energy ball exploded, releasing a powerful emerald light that enveloped the man in black. The man in black let out a scream, then was wrapped in energy and completely disappeared in the emerald green light. Kong Xian stopped the spell and gasped. They were temporarily free of the threat. Period. Chapter 282. You must proceed with caution. The emerald green light gradually dissipated, and the stone tower hall fell into silence again. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang looked at each other, still full of doubts and uneasiness in their hearts. The mysterious appearance and sudden disappearance of the man in black made them uneasy. Yuang broke the silence first. She said, "This is so abnormal. He can escape so easily, and we know nothing about him." Kong Xian nodded in agreement, his brows furrowed. "Yes, his energy fluctuations are also very weird, and there seems to be some kind of special shielding method. We must find out his identity and purpose." Ellie stared at the place where the man in black disappeared in 627, and she said, "Maybe this stone tower contains some key clues. We should continue to explore and see if we can find any clues about him." The three of them regrouped and continued deep into the stone tower. There is a huge stone door at the end of the hall, which is covered with ancient runes. Kong Xian tried to touch the runes, and suddenly, the door began to open slowly, emitting ancient power fluctuations. After the door opened, they entered the next area. This area is different from the hall. It is more like an ancient library. 12 bookshelves are lined with ancient scrolls and books, and the walls are covered with paintings and maps. Kong Xian approached the bookshelf and began to study books. He found that these books recorded the history of Yanhuang continent and the mysterious power of elements. One of the books piqued his interest, which told the legend of the 4 elemental gems. The book mentions that the 4 elemental gems are one of the oldest treasures on Yanhuang continent. They represent the power of fire, water flow, storm and earth respectively. The energy that can be released by synthesizing these gems has the power to change the world. Ellie walked to Kong Xian and asked with concern, "Kong Xian, do these books mention the man in black or his purpose?" Kong Xian shook his head. "No, these books mainly focus on the legend and power of elemental gems, without mentioning specific characters. But it does confirm, Beeb, that the gems in our hands are extraordinary." Yuang stood by the wall, observing the paintings hanging on the wall. She pointed to an ancient map and said, "Look at this map. It marks some mysterious places. One of them is the stone tower where we are now." Kong Xian and Ellie walked closer to the map and studied the marked locations carefully. They found that there were other places marked that seemed to be related to elemental gems. Yuang continued, "Maybe we should go to these locations to look for more clues." Just as they were about to leave the library area, suddenly, an ancient scroll fell from the bookshelf and opened on the ground. Kong Xian bent down to pick up the scroll and found an ancient map on it, marking a familiar location, which was the previous destination. Kong Xian frowned. "What does this mean? Did the man in black know in advance that we are coming here?" Ellie also felt uneasy. She said, "Maybe he has some way of predicting our actions. We have to be careful." Yuang unfolded the scroll and studied the map carefully. She said, "Anyway, we have to go to this location now and maybe we can find out more about the gems and the man in black's thread house." The three decided to set out immediately, believing that location might be the key to solving the mystery. They walked through the library area, back to the lobby, and headed toward the location marked on the map. Period. Chapter 283 attracted the covetousness of countless people. Outside the Stone Tower Hall, Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang embarked on a new journey. They followed a path marked on the ancient map. The scenery along the way was picturesque, and the beauty of Yanhuang continent appeared before their eyes. The sunlight shines through the leafage on the path, forming mottled light and shadow, as if nature is applauding and welcoming them. Birds sing happily on the treetops, as if they are describing the tranquility and mystery of this land. Kong Xian pondered deeply, knowing that the task ahead should not be underestimated. The synthesis of the 4 elemental gems has attracted the covetousness of countless people, while the identity and purpose of the man in black remain a mystery. He must proceed with caution to ensure the safety of the Pokémon Academy while solving the mystery. Ellie walked beside him, her eyes full of determination. Kong Xian, no matter what happens, we must protect the world. This is our responsibility. Kong Xian smiled and nodded. You are right, Ellie. We cannot let these powers fall into the hands of illegal people. Yuang silently stared at the path ahead, her eyes revealing deep thoughts. She said, I have always felt that all this is related to the history of Yanhuang continent. Maybe we can find more clues at that marking point. The 3 of them gradually walked into a forest. The trees were tall and dense, and the sunlight shined through the leafage, forming golden spots on the ground. The temperature in the forest is cool and pleasant, and the breeze blows and the leafage rustles. Suddenly, there was a sound, as if there was a creature moving among the trees. Kong Xian raised his hand to signal everyone to stop and looked around cautiously. A Pokémon walked out from the trees. Its body was transparent, like crystal normal, shining with a faint light. The Pokémon opened its mouth and made a sweet voice. Welcome to this forest, Lord Kong Xian, Ms. Ellie, and Ms. Moonshadow. Kong Xian was slightly stunned. He didn't expect to encounter a Pokémon that could communicate here. He asked, Are you the guardian of this forest? Pokémon nodded. Yes, I am the guardian Pokémon of this forest. My name is Crystal Lucas. I can sense everything on this land, including your arrival. Ellie approached Crystal Lucas, smiled and said, Can you tell us some information about this place? We are looking for clues about 4 elemental gems and a mysterious man in black, please. Give me flowers. Crystal Lucas nodded. Of course, I can provide you with some information. This forest is an ancient place on Yanhuang continent, known as the Forest of Elements. According to legend, this was once the birthplace of elemental gems. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang all showed surprised expressions. This information is too important for them, and it may be able to solve the mystery of the 4 elemental gems. Crystal Lucas continued, The Forest of Elements contains rich elemental powers, which were once used to protect the peace of Yanhuang continent. But a long time ago, someone tried to use these powers, so the gems were scattered in different locations. Yuang asked, So is this mysterious man in black related to the gems in prison? Crystal Lucas thought for a moment and said, I can't be sure, but his appearance is indeed related to the synthesis of gems. Maybe he is some kind of ancient guardian trying to regain the power pills of these gems. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 The True Power of Gems. Kong Xian clenched his fists and made up his mind. We must find these gems and stop his plan. Ellie added, At the same time, we also need to learn more about the power and history of gemstones, which will help us make decisions. Crystal Lucas nodded. I am willing to help you, but first, you must pass the test of the elemental forest. Hearing the word test, the 3 of them all stared at the Crystal Lucas warily. Crystal Lucas explained, This forest is full of trials of elemental power. Only by passing these trials can the true power of gems be obtained. Kong Xian nodded in agreement and said, We are willing to accept the test, as long as we can get the true power of the gem and stop the man in black. Crystal Lucas leads Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang into the depths of the elemental forest. As soon as they entered this ancient forest, they felt that the air was filled with strong elemental power, as if they were in a mysterious fairyland. The trees in the forest are towering, and the tall giant branches are lush with leaves, forming a verdant turf. The ground was covered with soft moss, and there was no sound when footsteps stepped on it. The breeze blew, bringing with it the fresh scent of flowers and trees. Crystal Lucas guided them to a wide meadow, strewn with colorful flowers and butterflies dancing among the flowers. He said, "This is the first trial of the Forest of Elements, the mystery of the Sea of Flowers. You need to find the correct path in the Sea of Flowers in order to move forward." Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang looked at each other, obviously feeling that this was not easy. The flowers on the grass are densely packed with different colors, and there is no obvious path to follow. They decided to work together to find clues. Ellie squatted down and carefully observed a red flower. She said, "Maybe there is a certain pattern in the color and arrangement of these flowers. We need to find out this pattern." Yuang nodded. She squatted down to observe an orange flower, and began to compare the color and position of the flower with Ellie. Kong Xian carefully studied the surrounding scene, trying to find some unusual signs. After a while, Ellie suddenly discovered some patterns. She said, "I discovered that the colors and positions of these flowers seem to simulate the flow of elemental power. The red flowers represent flames, the orange ones represent storms, and the yellow ones represent the earth. The green ones represent water flow." Yuang quickly understood what Ellie meant, and she said, "The arrangement of these flowers should represent the flow path of the elemental power. We just need to follow this path." Kong Xian praised, "Smart, Ellie. Let's follow this path and find a location of the next trial." They followed the path of flowers and soon came to an open area deep in the forest. In the center of this area, there is a huge stone platform engraved with ancient runes. Crystal Lucas pointed at the stone platform and said, "This is the second trial of the Forest of Elements, the mystery of the runes. You need to solve 0.2 of the puzzles of these runes before you can move forward." Kong Xian walked to the stone platform and carefully observed the arrangement of the runes. These runes may seem chaotic, but Kong Xian keenly feels the power of the elements contained in them. Ellie also stepped forward and said, "Perhaps these runes are different attributes representing the power of the elements, and we need to activate them in the correct order." Chapter 285 The Next Trial Area. Yuang stared at the rune, and through the rune she saw a waterfall in the distance with 4 streams of different colors on the waterfall. "I think we need to mimic that elemental flow over that waterfall, activating the runes in turn," she said. Kong Xian nodded, and they touched the runes one by one according to the color and order of the water on the waterfall. Whenever they touch a rune, the surrounding elemental power changes, as if in response to their actions. When the last rune was activated, the ground in the center of the stone platform began to shake, and a beam of light rose from the ground, sending them into the next trial area 14. They came to a huge crystal cave. The cave was filled with colorful crystals. The crystals emitted a soft light and illuminated the entire space. At the end of the cave, there is a seemingly crystal clear door, but it is covered with lines and patterns. Crystal Lucas said, "This is the third trial in the Forest of Elements, the mystery of the crystal. You need to solve the pattern on the crystal door to lead to the next trial." Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang approached the crystal door and carefully observed the patterns on the door. These patterns seem to flash with a special rhythm and are constantly changing. Ellie said, "There should be some pattern in the changes of these patterns, and we need to find and operate according to the pattern." Kong Xian stared at the patterns, and suddenly he noticed a subtle pattern. He said, "I discovered that the changes in these patterns seem to simulate the energy fluctuations of the 4 elemental gems. We need to touch them in the order of the gems." They followed Kong Xian's instructions and touched the patterns on the crystal door in sequence. Each touch would cause the pattern to change. When the last pattern is touched, the crystal door begins to slowly open, and they can move on. Crystal Lucas led them to the deepest part of the Forest of Elements, where there was a huge waterfall with water rushing down, as if it was the source of the power of the elements. Crystal Lucas said, "This is the last trial in the Forest of Elements, the mystery of the waterfall. You need to pass this waterfall to gain the true power of the gem." Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang faced the waterfall, knowing that this was the most difficult trial. The waterfall has rapid water flow and mist, making it look like a natural barrier. Kong Xian decided to test it out first. He approached the waterfall and reached out to touch the water. Suddenly, a strong suction pulled him into the water. He was washed by the waterfall and could not stand still. Ellie and Yuang rushed forward and tried to rescue Kong Xian, but they were also sucked into the water by the section of the waterfall. The 3 of them were dizzy by the current and unable to extricate themselves. At this moment, Crystal Lucas flew to the waterfall, emitting bright light, and her body gradually became transparent, as if she had merged into the waterfall. She said, "Don't be afraid, let the power of the elements guide you." Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang worked hard to adjust their postures and began to feel the power of the elements contained in the waterfall's water flow. They gradually merged with the water flow, as if becoming part of the power of the elements. Slowly, they learned to control their movements in the water and began to swim toward the top of the waterfall. The light of Crystal Lucas guides them, helping them overcome the obstruction of the water flow. Finally, they successfully swam out of the waterfall and stood on top of it. Their bodies were soaked, but their eyes were full of firm belief. Crystal Lucas returned to them, and she said, "You have successfully passed the trial of the Forest of Elements, and now you can obtain the true power of gems." Chapter 286. Feel more focused. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang stood above the waterfall, Crystal Lucas's words still echoing in their ears. They took a deep breath and felt the elemental power emanating from behind the waterfall. This was the last step for them to obtain the true power of the gem. Kong Xian's eyes were firm, and he said to Ellie and Yuang, "We have to enter the source behind the waterfall together. There should be everything we need there." Ellie nodded. She had always had full confidence in Kong Xian and believed that he could lead them through this final trial. Yuang also prepared silently, and her Pokémon partners were beside her, seeming to sense the upcoming challenge. The three people approached the waterfall and their bodies were gradually engulfed by the water, but they did not feel afraid. Crystal Lucas light appeared again, shrouding them in warm light. This time, they felt more intently the power of the elements contained in the water flow. Their water of the waterfall seemed to be interacting with them, pushing them forward rhythmically. Their bodies are no longer at the mercy of suction, but move through the water as nimbly as fish. Suddenly, a powerful water column came and tried to scatter them. Kong Xian waved a long staff in his hand and released a stream of wind power to disperse the water column. Ellie lets her fire-type Pokémon release flames, vaporizing the water column. Mooney and her water-type Pokémon merged into one, creating a wall of water that blocked the remaining water flow in front of her. The three people cooperated in a tacit understanding, and they were getting closer and closer to the source of the waterfall. Finally, guided by the power of the elements, they passed through the last layer of water curtain and arrived at the source of the waterfall. This is a mysterious space, with water flowing from all directions and converging on a huge crystal stone platform. In the center of the crystal stone platform, there is a huge gem suspended, which emits 4 different colors of light. It is the synthesis of 4 elemental gems. The power of this gem is so powerful that people dare not look at it. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang looked at the gem, with endless awe in their hearts. This is the result of their long hours of hard work and risk-taking, and it is the mission they want to defend. Kong Xian stretched out his hand and touched the gem gently. He felt a warm power pass into his body, and his body seemed to melt into the gem. He knew that this gem had become one with them and became their source of strength. Ellie and Yuang also followed Kong Xian and touched the gem. Their bodies were also recognized by the gems, and the minds of the three began to merge with the power of the elements. Crystal Lucas watched from the side, her eyes shining with satisfaction. She said, "You succeeded. Now you have the true power of gems, and you will become the guardians of Yanhuang continent." Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang smiled slightly. They understood the responsibilities they shouldered. They, Zeus, want to protect the world and protect the peaceful coexistence of Pokémon and humans. Suddenly, a sharp sound pierced the air, and a group of people rushed in. Wearing contest attire and holding weapons, they were obviously here to snatch gems. In order to stop them, Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang faced the enemy. The leader was a strong man, and he sneered, "It seems that we came at the right time. The gems are waiting for us here." Chapter 287. Continue to pass on the legacy. Ellie raised her lips slightly and said to Kong Xian and Yuang, "Let us protect the gem together and prevent them from getting it." Kong Xian nodded. He held the gem firmly and released his wind attribute Pokémon. A fierce battle is about to break out. The 4 elements of wind, fire, water and earth interweave around them to form an indestructible barrier. The battle began, and a wonderful scene was staged on the crystal stone platform. Kong Xian waved his long staff and released a powerful wind blade to knock back the enemy. Ellie's fire Pokémon turns into a fire dragon, spray out blazing flames and surround the enemy. Moonshadow's water-type Pokémon controls water flow, trapping enemies in a water prison. The enemy resisted desperately, but they faced the joint attack of Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang, and 960 had almost no power to fight back. In the end, they were defeated and fell beside the crystal stone platform. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang were relieved that they successfully defended the gem. Crystal Lucas floated in front of them and she said, "You have shown true courage and wisdom. The gems have found their true guardian." Kong Xian smiled, and their journey finally ushered in a moment of victory. He said, "We will always protect this gem and safeguard the peace of Yanhuang continent." Ellie and Yuang also expressed their firm determination. They knew that their mission had just begun. They, Beta, will continue to explore this world full of Pokémon and elemental powers, and work hard to maintain peace. Crystal Lucas nodded, and she said, "Yanhuang continent needs guardians like you. Now, go and use the power of gems for justice." Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang put the gems on their necklaces together. The gems emitted a warm light, as if blessing them. They left the source of the waterfall and returned to the entrance of the Forest of Elements. The three guardians left the elemental forest and returned to the Evergreen Pokemon Academy with the power of gems and the joy of victory. The college campus is still peaceful, but Kong Xian knows that this tranquility is because of their protection and their efforts. Kong Xian walked on the campus path, followed closely by Ellie and Yuang. Sunlight shines on the ground through leafage, casting mottled light and shadow. Their hearts are full of expectations for the future, but they also know that there may be more challenges waiting for them ahead. Yuang broke the silence and said, "Dean, we succeeded. Now we are the guardians of the gems, but this is just a new beginning." Kong Xian nodded and said, "Yes, Yuang, we will continue to work hard to protect the peace of Yanhuang continent. The power of gems will be our confidence." Ellie added with a smile, "Moreover, we still have each other. Our teamwork is extremely tacit, which is our most powerful weapon." The three of them walked to the gate of the college and saw the students of the college practicing and studying. This is the cradle of cultivating Pokemon messengers, and future guardians are being trained here. Kong Xian looked at the students and said, "These young people will be the future of Yanhuang continent. We must pass on the power of gems and cultivate more guardians." Yuang nodded. She said, "We need to teach them courage, wisdom and teamwork, so that they can become true Pokemon messengers." Ellie added with a smile, "Just like us, let them continue to pass on and protect this beautiful continent." The three people's eyes focused on the gem again, and the gem emitted a warm light, as if blessing their determination and mission. Period. Chapter 288. There will be no good fruit to eat. Kong Xian, Ellie, and Yuang returned to the Evergreen Pokemon Academy, bringing with them the joy of victory and great responsibility. They walked into the college's teaching building, which was a huge room made of jade and crystal stones. Amber lights illuminate the interior, revealing an ancient and mysterious atmosphere. "President, thank you very much for saving our continent from a disaster," Yuang said to Kong Xian with a smile. Kong Xian showed a gentle smile. "This is what we should do, Yuang. But we cannot take it lightly. Although the power of the gems after merging is strong, it will also attract more greed and hostility." Ellie added, "Yes, Dean. The existence of power will always lead to two sides, both good and evil. We must always be prepared to deal with it." At this moment, the door of the teaching building was suddenly pushed open violently, and a panting student rushed in. "Dean, it's bad. Someone has broken into the Pokemon Forbidden area, and there are quite a few of them." Kong Xian frowned slightly, and his intuition told him that this was related to the synthetic gem. "Do you know who it is?" he asked. "It's not clear yet, but they are all well equipped, not like normal thieves or adventurers," the student answered. Kong Xian turned to Ellie and Yuang. "It seems that the problem is really coming. We must take action immediately." Yuang clenched her fists. "I understand, Dean." Ellie nodded. "We are always ready." The three of them quickly left the teaching building and walked through the courtyard of the college. The flowers and trees in the courtyard coexisted harmoniously with the Pokemon, and they seemed to feel the tense atmosphere. Kong Xian is in front, followed by Ellie and Yuang. Their goal is the Pokemon Forbidden area. After a short trek, they came to a place surrounded by tall stone pillars and mysterious ruins. This is the Pokemon Forbidden Land, a place where ancient knowledge and Pokemon on the continent are preserved. It is indeed a forbidden place for Pokemon. Even the air is filled with strong elemental power. Ellie sighed. "It would be disrespectful for someone to break into a place like this," Yuang added. Kong Xian slowly took out the synthesized gem and placed it in the palm of his hand. The gem emits a faint light, as if sensing movement not far away. "We have to hurry up. I can feel their aura getting stronger and stronger. Please give me flowers." The three of them quickened their pace and finally came to a more secret area. They saw a group of well-equipped people trying to open an ancient stone door. Kong Xian stared at them coldly. "What do you mean?" When the group of people saw Kong Xian, they immediately became alert. "HMPH, It turns out they are from the Evergreen Pokémon Academy. If you interfere, be careful, you won't get any good results. 0. Kong Xian slowly waved the long staff in his hand. You have already committed a big taboo, why don't you leave quickly? Dean, these people have no shame, why not just speak with strength? Yuang clenched her fists. Kong Xian glanced at Yuang and Ellie lightly, and all three of them understood that another battle would follow. They summoned their own Pokémon at the same time, and the elemental power was once again intertwined in the air. Kong Xian's wind attribute Pokémon, Ellie's fire Pokémon, and Yuang's water-type Pokémon all worked together to form an inviolable line of defense. Kong Xian held the gem firmly and glanced at Yuang and Ellie. Chapter 289 Entering the Passage. Yuang and Ellie nodded, and the three of them gathered their gazes again. In their eyes, there was only determination and responsibility, without flinching. At this moment, they will wave their weapons again and start fighting for the Yanhuang continent, for Pokémon, and for peace. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang stood in front of the ancient stone door, their Pokémon surrounding them, and the power of the elements filling the air. The group of well-equipped people 793 looked at the three people's determination, with greed and ridicule in their eyes. It seems that you still don't know that there are endless treasures and power hidden behind this stone door. A leader laughed. Kong Xian responded indifferently, treasure and power are not everything, greed will only lead to destruction. Our mission is to protect this continent and will not let you destroy everything. Ellie's flame Pokémon roared, and the flames burned like a lick. Yuang's water-type Pokémon sparkled beside her, like a clear spring flowing. This atmosphere made the group of people feel oppressed, but they still refused to retreat. Stop talking nonsense and let them have a taste of our power. The leader waved the weapon in his hand, and the others followed closely and launched a charge towards Kong Xian and his party. The battle broke out, and the collision of elemental power and weapons made a harsh sound. Kong Xian waved his long staff, and the wind attribute Pokémon released a strong wind, blowing an enemy away. Ellie's fire Pokémon spit up bursts into flames, burning the enemy's armor. Moonshadow's water-type Pokémon controls water flow, trapping an enemy in a curtain of water. These guys are more stubborn than we thought. Ellie gasped. Yuang nodded in agreement. Yes, they seem to be desperate to open this stone door. The leader chuckled. Do you think this little power can stop us? He waved his hand, summoning a huge earth attribute Pokémon, and slammed his huge rock palm towards Kong Xian and his group. Kong Xian frowned slightly, but did not flinch. He concentrated his power and released the storm element, creating a wall of wind that blocked Rock's palm. Then, he looked at Ellie and Yuang and motioned for them to launch a joint political suppression together. Now is the time. Kong Xian shouted. Ellie and Yuang understood what he meant, and released their elemental power at the same time. The flames and water flow intertwined to form a stream of hot steam. Kong Xian's wind element spreads the steam, forming a storm of flames and attacking the enemy. The flame storm swept over and surrounded the enemy. They roared pitifully and tried to resist, but in vain. Eventually, the flame storm dissipated, leaving behind a burning ruins. The enemies fell to the ground, unable to stand up again. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang looked at the scene of victory, but they didn't feel the slightest sense of pride, because they knew that this was just the beginning of a battle. They walked to the stone door, and the light of the gem gradually lit up, as if responding to their presence. Treasures and power are both captivate, but our responsibility is to protect. Kong Xian said softly, and then inserted the gem into the hole of the stone door. The stone door began to open slowly, revealing a passage leading to an unknown world. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang exchanged firm glances, and then stepped into the passage together. Period. Chapter 290 Protect this gem. At the end of the passage is a mysterious space, filled with ancient energy and an unknown atmosphere. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang walked into this world, and the light of the gem gradually dimmed, leaving a faint guidance. They found themselves in an ancient temple, surrounded by tall pillars and exquisite carvings. The ground is scattered with sparkling gems, each one exuding mysterious energy. In the center of the temple, there is a huge staircase, with a huge crystal ball placed on it, shining with light of various colors. Ellie walked towards the crystal ball curiously. She reached out and touched it, feeling a strange sense of connection. Her palm seemed to merge into the crystal ball, and suddenly, various images and information emerged in her mind. 14. What is this? Ellie asked in surprise. Kong Xian and Yu Ying also joined her, and all three were attracted by the information in the crystal ball. Under the reflection of the crystal ball, they saw ancient legends and mysterious history. The crystal ball shows the origin of Yanhuang continent, a world full of elemental power. They saw ancient Pokémon. They are the guardians of the continent. They can master the power of elements and protect the peace of the continent. But as time went by, human greed and ambition led to turmoil on the continent. The elemental power was abused, and it fell into crisis. Then, the legendary 4 elemental gems appeared, representing fire, water, earth and wind respectively. These gems have great power to balance the elements and save the continent, but the power of gems also attracted the covetousness of greedy people, and a fierce battle broke out eventually. One brave Pokémon combined the 4 gems into one, creating an even more powerful one. But in order to protect this gem, he sealed his memory and hid the gem in this temple. His sacrifice brought peace to the continent, but also allowed the secret of the gem to be hidden in history forever. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang were stunned. They had just solved one of the oldest mysteries on the continent. The information in the crystal ball made them understand their mission, to protect this gem and protect the peace of the continent. This is our responsibility, Kong Xian said softly, feeling a solemn sense of mission. Ellie nodded. Yes, we cannot let this gem fall into the hands of evil again. Yuang stared at the crystal ball, her eyes full of determination. We will always guard this secret and protect the continent. Just as they were about to move on, a ray of light suddenly emitted from the crystal ball and turned into an illusory image. It was an ancient Pokémon. His appearance was solemn and wise, and he looked like a 1,000-year-old elder. 653. Are you the guardians of this gem? The ancient Pokémon's voice was full of questions. Kong Xian bowed and saluted. Yes, we are the envoys of the Evergreen Pokémon Academy, and we will do our best to protect this gem and protect the peace of the mainland. The ancient Pokémon nodded. You already understand the origin and importance of this gem. But you must remember that it not only represents strength, but also represents firm will and responsibility. Only when facing a huge test can we truly appreciate the value of it. Ellie was in awe. We understand. We will live up to our mission and protect this gem. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291. Sooner or later it will fall into my hands. The ancient Pokémon smiled. Very good, I believe you can do it. Now, I will give you a present to help you in your future adventures. He stretched out his finger, and a ray of light shot towards Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang. The three of them felt a powerful force flowing into their bodies. Their Pokémon also sublimated at this moment and became more powerful. This is our blessing and our trust. Protect the continent and protect peace. This is your mission. The voice of the ancient Pokémon gradually disappeared, leaving a mysterious atmosphere. Leah and Moonshadow felt their bodies filled with power, and their Pokémon glowed even more brilliantly. They know that the blessings of ancient Pokémon will be their powerful support in future adventures. Kong Xian stood up and stared at the gem and crystal ball, his eyes full of determination. We must bring this gem back, protect it, and keep its power alive. Ellie also stood beside him. Yes, it is our responsibility, Mooney added. We'll take this gem back to the Evergreen Pokémon Academy, where it's safest. They turned around and left the temple and embarked on their return journey. But they know that this task is not easy, and they will face countless challenges and tests returning to the Evergreen Pokémon Academy. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang placed the crystal ball and gems in a special temple. The temple exuded a mysterious light, like a strong fortress, guarding this precious secret. The teachers and students of the college gathered in front of the temple. They knew that something important had happened, but Kong Xian did not elaborate. He only said, "This is our important mission, and we will go all out to protect this gem and protect the peace of the mainland." Many years have passed, and Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang have been standing in front of the temple, guarding the gems. They experienced countless challenges and adventures, but the gems were always safe during this time. They trained a new generation of Pokémon messengers and passed on the mission of guardianship. The Academy has also become stronger and has become one of the most important forces on the continent, but that synthetic gem also attracted countless greedy people to covet it. Sometimes, dark forces will try to invade the Academy and try to take away the gems, but Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang always guard firmly. One day, a young Pokémon messenger named Kong Xian walked into the temple, and he brought a worrying message. Dean, Someone got a clue about the gem, and they are approaching the academy. Kong Xian frowned, knowing that this day would come sooner or later. We must prepare to meet them and protect the gems so that no one can take them away. Ellie and Yuang also immediately prepared themselves, knowing that this would be a difficult battle. The teachers and students of the college also gathered in front of the temple, shinies, preparing to face the challenge of the dark forces. Soon after, a huge army appeared in front of the academy. Their leader was an ambitious Pokemon called Mark. Covet got the power of the gem. They wore armor and held weapons, and the atmosphere was tense and depressing. Mark stepped forward, his eyes locked on the jewels on the temple. He smiled sarcastically, "You stupid guardians, sooner or later the gem will fall into my hands." Chapter 292 Huge Pressure. Kong Xian stood in front of the gem and said coldly, "The gem will not fall into your hands, we will protect it resolutely." A battle broke out, and the army of dark forces rushed to the college. Kong Xian, Ellie and Yuang led the teachers and students of the college to rise up in resistance. Pokemon released the power of elements and fight fiercely against the enemy. Kong Xian waved his long staff and released powerful storm elements, blowing some enemies into the air. Ellie's flame Pokemon spit up bursts into flames, burning the enemy's armor. Moonshadow's water-type Pokemon controls water flow, trapping enemies, and a curtain of water magical flames bloomed in the air, and the army of dark forces rushed towards the Evergreen Pokemon Academy. The atmosphere was tense and depressing. The Dark Force Pokemon led by Mark is powerful and organized, but under the leadership of Kong Xian, the dean of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy, and Yuang, the female teacher, the teachers and students of the academy do not show weakness at all. Kong Xian raised the long staff in his hand, and the storm formed by the gathering of wind elements roared over. The storm raged like a giant dragon, blowing the front row of the dark Pokemon army to scatter. The armor shattered, and the sharp growl resounded through the sky. "Hold your position and don't let them get close to the gem." Kong Xian's voice echoed throughout the battlefield, and his eyes were firm. The water-type Pokemon next to Moonshadow creates a huge water curtain, trapping the dark Pokemon in it. The water flow continues to surge, making it difficult for the enemy to move. She calmly directed the teachers and students, asking them to concentrate their firepower to resist the impact of the dark forces. Not to be outdone, Mark released powerful earth elemental power from his body, and huge boulders emerged around him, forming a solid shield to withstand the invasion of storms and flames. He roared, waved a weapon in his hand, and launched a fierce attack under the leadership of Mark. The dark Pokemon soldiers advanced tenaciously, their armors shining with a dark light, and their weapons sharp and deadly. Opposite them were the teachers and students of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy. They fought hard and unleashed the power of their Pokemon partners to engage in a fierce battle. Pokemon, fight to the end to protect the gems and the peace of the continent. Yuang's voice was firm and passionate, inspiring the fighting spirit of teachers and students. Kong Xian's Pokemon partner, a tall wind element Pokemon, rises with whirlwind-like air currents, surrounding him, creating a powerful wind shield for him. Kong Xian's long staff danced in his hands, and the power of the wind element was perfectly controlled. He released a wind blade, cutting through the armor of the dark Pokemon. Teachers and students of the academy, we are not alone. We have the power of Pokemon, and we have the responsibility to protect this gem. Kong Xian's voice inspired the Pokemon messengers of the academy. The battle has entered a fierce stage, with the power of magic and elements intertwined in the air, and the scene is chaotic and fierce. Moonshadow's water Pokemon intertwined with the dark Pokemon warriors in the water curtain. She bound them with the power of the water element, and then released water bombs to impact the enemies. Mark's earth Pokemon created a huge earth wall, blocking Kong Xian's storm attack. His eyes were fierce and unyielding, determined to take away the gem. The gems are right in front of us, we must not let them succeed. Yuang's agility led her to have a fierce duel with a female warrior of dark Pokemon. The weapons of the two collided continuously, causing ember to fly everywhere. Kong Xian's Pokemon partner released a powerful wind blade, cutting through the armor of the dark Pokemon. Although Mark was powerful, he also felt tremendous pressure. Chapter 293 Carrying countless expectations. He roared, releasing more earth elemental power, trying to break through Kong Xian's windshield. "Dean, be careful." Yuang's voice came, and she was struggling to resist the attack of the dark Pokemon. Kong Xian fought with concentration, his windshield unwavering. He decided to take a risk and released a more powerful storm elemental power. A huge wind burst out instantly, sucking the dark Pokémon army into the storm. They were violently tackled by the sand, dust and gravel in the storm. Unable to resist, Mark was swept away by the storm. His body fell far away, the earth wall collapsed, and the dark Pokémon soldiers were also swept away by the wind and fled in all directions. Moonshadow's water Pokémon slowly retracted the water curtain, revealing the scene of the battlefield, with scattered wreckage and smoke and dust. Victory, Dean. Yuang's eyes were full of respect and gratitude. Kong Xian smiled slightly. This is a victory for all of us. Together we guarded the peace of the gem and the mainland. The teachers and students of the academy cheered, and the Pokémon partners returned to their masters one after another. The joy of victory filled the air. The gem still shimmered with mysterious light. It was safe and sound, without any harm. However, after the battle, the college also suffered certain losses. Some buildings were seriously damaged, and teachers and students also had wounded people who needed treatment. Kong Xian decided to start rescue and restoration work immediately. Yuang, I need you to stay and assist the teachers and students with treatment and repair. Kong Xian said. Yuang nodded. Of course, Zhang. Then, Kong Xian turned to Colin, a young Pokémon messenger who performed well in the battle, and he was about to give him an important task. Karen, I need you to go to other Pokémon academies in Yanhuang continent and warn him. The threat of their dark forces. Our victory is only temporary. They will not give up easily. Karen was in awe. I understand, Dean. I will leave as soon as possible. Kong Xian returned to the gem again. He stared at the synthetic gem with firm determination in his heart. He knew that guarding this gem and guarding the peace of the continent was a never-ending mission. Time passed quietly, and the college gradually returned to its former tranquility. Teachers and students worked together to repair damaged buildings and heal the wounded. The gem still shines with mysterious light, and its existence makes everyone feel that they have an important mission. Please give me flowers. Kong Xian and Yuang sat together in front of the gem, with their Pokémon partners surrounding them. The scene was like a harmonious picture. We have defeated the forces of darkness, but this is just the beginning. Kong Xian took a deep breath. We must be more vigilant to protect the peace of the mainland. Zero. Yuang nodded. Yes, Dean. We will continue to work hard. No matter how big the challenges, we will firmly protect this gem. At this moment, the gem emits a dazzling light, as if it is responding to the vows made by Kong Xian and Yuang. This synthetic gem contains the power and hope of the continent, and it will continue to bear witness to the never-ending mission of the Guardians of the Evergreen Pokémon Academy. Kong Xian and Yuang sat in front of the gem. Their eyes met, and their silence revealed determination and responsibility. This gem carries countless expectations. Its existence means peace in Yanhuang continent, but it also means endless danger at this moment. A student Pokémon from the Pokémon Academy hurried in, his expression tense. Period. Chapter 294. Forced into chaos. Kong Xian and Yuang immediately noticed the abnormality. What's wrong? Kong Xian asked. The Pokémon panted and said, Dean, a strange Pokémon has just arrived at the academy. He said that he has an urgent mission for you. Kong Xian and Yuang exchanged glances, then stood up. Take me to him. They followed the Pokémon to the gate of the academy, where a tall strange Pokémon was standing there, with worry written on his face. This Pokémon has an extremely unique appearance. He has dark purple skin and a pair of horn-shaped horns on his head, which shines faintly. Are you Director Kong Xian? The strange Pokémon asked. Kong Xian nodded. Yes, I am Kong Xian. Who are you? Is there anything you want to entrust me with? The strange Pokémon said nervously. I am the Pokémon from the 543 Frost Ice Peak, and I bring urgent news. The leader of the Dark Forces, a Pokémon named the Shadow King, got the news and knew knowing the existence of this gem. He is leading a powerful army to seize it. The expressions of Kong Xian and Yu Ying instantly became solemn. The King of Shadows is one of the most powerful leaders of dark forces on the Yanhuang continent, and his arrival represents a great threat. How far are they from the academy? Kong Xian asked urgently. The strange Pokémon replied, according to a reconnaissance, they are not far from the academy and may arrive within a few hours. Kong Xian immediately made a decision. We must prepare immediately to welcome their arrival. Yuang immediately organized teachers and students to strengthen the college's defense. Karen, you also stay to assist in the defense. This and I, the Pokémon from Frost Peak, will go to the temple where the gem is located and try their best to protect the gem. The Tense atmosphere within the college spread rapidly, and teachers and students gathered together to prepare for possible battles. The Pokémon also quickly adjusted the contest condition and prepared for battle. Kong Xian and the strange Pokémon immediately came to the temple, and the gems were still shining with mysterious light. Kong Xian took a deep breath. He knew that this would be a difficult battle, but he must protect the gem and protect the peace of Yanhuang continent. Soon after, the army of the dark forces appeared in the Academy's field of vision. Their flags were engraved with evil symbols, and the atmosphere of darkness filled the air. The Shadow King, a Pokémon leader in black robes, stood at the front, his eyes glowing fiercely, as if he could see through everything. He sneered and pointed at Kong Xian and the strange Pokémon. "You two, hand over the gems, otherwise you will both die here." Kong Xian stood in front of the gem and said resolutely, "The gem will not fall into your hands, we will resolutely protect it." The Shadow King's eyes became even colder. "Since you don't know how to appreciate me, don't blame me for being ruthless." The battle broke out again. The army of dark Pokémon rushed to the temple. Kong Xian released the power of the storm element, and the strange Pokémon also showed powerful ice and snow elements. The battle broke out again. The army of dark Pokémon rushed to the temple. Kong Xian released the power of the storm element, and the strange Pokémon also showed powerful ice and snow elements. The gems shone brightly during this battle, as if injecting strength into the guardians. The storm element was raging, throwing up sand and dust all over the sky, and splashing gravel. The dark Pokémon army was almost unable to move forward in the face of the strong wind, and was forced into chaos. Chapter 315. Touching it gently. The Shadow King's expression turned gloomy, and he understood that this battle was far more difficult than he imagined. Strange Pokémon use ice and snow elements to freeze some dark Pokémon in ice, making them unable to move. The Pokémon showed excellent combat skills, cooperated with each other, and launched a fierce confrontation with the dark Pokémon. "The gems will not fall into your hands." Kong Xian's voice echoed across the battlefield. He waved his long staff, and the storm elements became more violent, surrounding the Shadow King and his guards. The Shadow King gritted his teeth, feeling unprecedented pressure. Not to be outdone, he released the elements of darkness in an attempt to resist Kong Xian's storm. Kong Xian frowned. He knew that the power of this dark element was extremely powerful and should not be underestimated. He concentrated his energy and continued to maintain the storm, fighting fiercely with the power of the Shadow King. On the other side, Moon Shadow is also fighting against the guards of dark Pokémon. Her fire Pokémon spit up blazes with flames, forcing the enemy back. Her movement was extremely flexible and she avoided attacks again and again. Colin, the young Pokémon user, also showed excellent combat skills. He released the unearthed element and turned the ground into solid rock, providing a solid line of defense for the teachers and students of the academy. The battle lasted for a while and the scene was extremely fierce. The army of dark Pokémon is gradually feeling tired, but the guardians are still full of fighting spirit and determined to defend the peace of the gems and the continent. In the end, Kong Xian's storm elemental power suppressed the Shadow King's dark element, and he was forced to retreat. The guards of the dark Pokémon are also constantly being repelled, and their morale is low. "We can't defeat them," the Shadow King roared, knowing that this battle could no longer continue. Kong Xian's eyes were firm. "Get out of here, King of Shadows. The gem will never belong to you." Under the resolute attitude of the guardians, the Shadow King finally ordered a retreat. The dark Pokémon army left in a hurry, knowing that this attack had failed. Kong Xian and the guardians breathed a sigh of relief. They successfully protected the gem and the academy. But they also understand that the dark forces will not give up easily, and challenges will continue in the future. The gem sparkled, as if cheering for the guardians' victory. This synthetic gem witnessed a hard battle and the guardians' firm belief. Kong Xian turned to face the strange Pokémon and expressed his gratitude. "Thank you for bringing the important news in time. Without your warning, we might have fallen into greater danger." 4.2 The strange Pokémon smiled and nodded. "This is my responsibility. I come from Frost Ice Peak. We know the importance of peace. I will continue to pay attention to the dynamics here and contribute my strength to the peace of the continent at any time." Yu Ying also joined in. "Yes, we need to unite to face the threat of dark forces. Only by uniting can we protect this gem and the peace of the continent." The strange Pokémon left the academy, and Kong Xian and the guardians began to repair the damage caused by the battle. The teachers and students of the college urgently started repair work. Together they cleaned up the traces left by the battle and repaired the damaged buildings. Although the battle is over, it does not mean that they can take it lightly. The threat of dark forces still exists, and the challenges in the future are still severe. Kong Xian walked towards the gem and touched it gently. Period. Chapter 295 How to Master the Fire Element. It exuded a warm light in his palm, as if soothing the guardian's soul. He knew that this gem carried countless hopes and was also their strong fortress against the forces of darkness. We must remain vigilant, Kong Xian said to Yu Ying. Although the dark forces have been repelled, they will not give up. We must continue to consolidate the defense of the academy to ensure that the peace of the mainland is not threatened. Yu Ying nodded. She knew this was an important task. We will strengthen the training of teachers and students to improve their combat effectiveness. We cannot let the dark forces succeed again. In the following days, the college became busy and tense. Teachers and students have invested in more training, and the college's defense system has also been strengthened. Kong Xian and Yu Ying pay close attention to the dynamics of the mainland. They know that the dark forces may attack again at any time. At the same time, strange Pokémon also continue to stay in the academy, contributing their own strength to safeguarding the peace of the continent. He established a deep friendship with teachers and students and shared the knowledge and skills from Shuangbingfen. Kong Xian also had in-depth exchanges with unfamiliar Pokémon. He learned that Frost Ice Peak is a place full of ice and snow elements. The Pokémon there mainly focus on ice and snow magic and have powerful ice and snow abilities. This knowledge is valuable information for the faculty and students of the academy, helping them better prepare for future threats in the Pokémon Academy in the Xianhuang continent. The day-to-day training and preparation never stops. Kong Xian and Yu Ying led the teachers and students to work together to consolidate the college's defense in order to protect the synthetic gem and the peace of the mainland. On a quiet morning, the sun shines on the college playground through the gaps in the leafage. Teachers and students were divided into groups and conducted intense simulated combat training. Kong Xian stood aside and watched their performance. A young Pokémon student named Ellie waved the wind element in his hand and defeated a group of wind blades that simulated enemies. Her movements are elegant and smooth, as if integrated into the rhythm of nature. Excellent, Ellie. Kong Xian encouraged. He knows that these young Pokémon are the hope of the future, and they need to continue to train and grow in order to face possible threats from dark forces. Ellie smiled and nodded, then continued to participate in the training. She knows that the mission of the college is to protect the peace of the mainland, and she is willing to work hard for this. At the same time, Yu Ying was also in another corner, conducting fire element training with a group of female students. The flames burned in her hands, exuding hot energy. Concentrate and master the power of the fire element. Yu Ying's voice was full of encouragement and coaching. She knows that the fire element is a powerful force, but it also requires careful control and control by 047. The female students worked hard to follow Yu Ying's coaching and gradually mastered the essentials of the fire element. The flames became stable and powerful under their control. Suddenly, the flame in a student's hand lost control and ignited a sea of fire. The other students dodged in panic. The power of the flames is daunting. Mooney immediately rushed towards the out-of-control flames, her fire Pokémon following closely behind. They worked together to suppress the out-of-control fire and rescue the students from danger. Calm down. Mastering the fire element requires patience and stable emotions, Yu Ying said gently to the students, and then continued to coach them on how to master the power of the fire element. Period. Chapter 296 Strange Pokémon. In this Pokémon Academy in Yanhuang continent, the interaction between teachers and students is full of understanding and cooperation. They support each other, make progress together, and work tirelessly to protect the peace of the mainland. During lunchtime, Kong Xian and Yu Ying gathered teachers and students in the hall of the college. The hall was filled with all kinds of delicious food, and the Pokémon sat together and enjoyed a sumptuous lunch. Students, their training performance today was outstanding. Kong Xian began to speak, but we cannot forget that dark forces still exist and may threaten the peace of the mainland again at any time. The teachers and students nodded silently. They understood this. Although the shadow of the dark forces has temporarily receded, it has not completely disappeared. Future challenges are still waiting for them. Yu Ying continued. We will continue to strengthen training and improve everyone's combat effectiveness. At the same time, we also need to pay close attention to the dynamics on the mainland to ensure that we are ready at any time. After lunch, teachers and students returned to their own training and study. Kong Xian went to the Academy's library to find more information about elemental gems and dark forces. The library is quiet and spacious, with various ancient scrolls and books on the shelves. Kong Xian carefully flipped through one of the books about elemental gems. Soon after, Yuang walked into the library, and she was also looking for information about dark forces. The two stood side by side, exploring this treasure house of knowledge together. Did you see any useful information? Kong Xian asked. Yuang shook her head. Not yet, but I believe the answer must exist somewhere in here. They continued their search and delved into various ancient scrolls and documents. They know that only by understanding their enemies' weaknesses and strategies can they be better prepared to deal with future challenges. Suddenly, Kong Xian's eyes fell on an ancient scroll with strange symbols engraved on it. He opened the scroll and began to study its contents. There are some records about dark forces here. It seems that this scroll may contain useful information. Kong Xian said excitedly. Yuang also came over and read the text on the scroll carefully. The scroll describes some characteristics and action patterns of the dark forces, which will be of great help in understanding them. The two decided to take the scroll back to the academy to share it with teachers and students and study it in depth. This will help formulate more effective countermeasures to safeguard peace on the mainland. After returning to the college, Kong Xian and Yuang convened an emergency meeting to introduce the information they found in the library to the teachers and students. Teachers and students listened attentively. They knew this information is critical to their training and preparation. After the meeting, teachers and students conducted simulated battles in contest category to adjust tactics and strategies based on newly acquired information. They hope that through continuous training and research, they can improve their combat skills and better meet future challenges. The Pokémon Academy in Yanhuang continent is still full of life and vitality. Under the leadership of Kong Xian and Yu Ying, the teachers and students trained hard and were prepared to face unknown challenges. One day, when the college bell rang, announcing the beginning of a new day, a strange Pokémon suddenly broke into the college. He was dressed in a robe of brilliant colors and held a gemstone that shone with blue light. This strange Pokémon is obviously a high-level mage. Period. Chapter 297. Lightning and Thunder Intertwined. Kong Xian and Yuang immediately walked towards him, their expressions alert. Who are you? Why did you break into my academy? Kong Xian's voice was full of authority and determination. The strange Pokémon smiled and bowed to them, and then said, I am Carol, from the distant Thunder Castle. I heard that you have a synthetic elemental gem, and I came to seek cooperation. Yuang frowned slightly and asked, Cooperation? What do you mean? Carol explained, the gem I am carrying is a lightning element gem, which has powerful electrical energy. I believe that if 913 merges it with your element gem, it will create an unprecedented power. Enough to resist the forces of darkness. This proposal aroused the interest and curiosity of everyone present. The Pokémon began to talk and discuss the possibility of this cooperation. Kong Xian thought for a moment and then said, Carol, if we consider cooperation, you must tell us more about Thunder Castle and your motives. We cannot hand over the gems easily. Carl nodded to express his understanding and continued to explain. Thunder Castle is a city that mainly masters the power of the electric element of thunder, Beb. We have been seeking various elemental gems to protect the peace of the continent. The threat of dark forces has always existed. We hope to unite and protect this land together. Yuang affirmed Carl's explanation. If we can cooperate, it will not only be the power of the gems, but also our unity and wisdom. But we need time to consider this proposal, and we must ensure that this is the right decision. Carolder understood their concerns and said, I will wait for your decision. If you are willing to cooperate, I will stay in the college and assist you in the merger ceremony. Thus, an intense discussion began. Teachers and students expressed their opinions one after another, while Kong Xian and Yuang carefully weighed the pros and cons. Finally, after careful consideration, they decided to try to cooperate with Carol to perform a merging ceremony between lightning element gems and synthetic gems. On the eve of the merger ceremony, the atmosphere in the college was extremely tense. Teachers and students gathered together to prepare for this important moment. Carol stood in the center of the ceremony, holding a lightning element gem. Kong Xian and Yuang stood beside him, preparing to guide the ceremony. As the ceremony began, the Pokémon closed their eyes and concentrated. Carl began to release discharge energy, and the synthesized gems also emitted the light of various elements. The ceremony was extremely intense, with the energy of lightning and other elements intertwined to form a spectacular feast of light and electricity. The Pokémon felt a powerful flow of energy, their heartbeats quickened, and they prayed for the peace of the continent. Suddenly, the ceremony reached its climax, and a dazzling light burst out from the gem, covering the entire academy in Lucas. The Pokémon opened their eyes and found that the synthesized gems had been completed, exuding unprecedented power. Carol smiled and said, "If the cooperation is successful, this gem will be your strongest weapon to protect the continent." Kong Xian and Yuang are also satisfied. They know that this is an important decision that will help strengthen the college's defense and protect the peace of the mainland. But at this moment, a powerful dark energy suddenly emerged, and the academy's soaring in the sky was shrouded in dark clouds, with lightning and thunder intertwined. Period. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298, Witness of the Battle. In the dark clouds soaring in the sky, the dark energy continues to increase, like a giant beast awakening. The Pokémon felt a heavy pressure and looked around nervously, preparing to deal with the attack of the dark forces. Suddenly, a group of Dark Force men, wearing black robes and masks on their faces, appeared at the border of the college. They hold dark staffs and have cold eyes, obviously controlled by powerful dark forces. "Guard the gems, don't let anyone get close," Kong Xian loudly ordered, and the teachers and students of the college quickly lined up to prepare for the battle. Carol was also standing on the front line, with a lightning element gem in hand, ready to release powerful electric energy. The men of the dark forces quickly advanced towards the college's defense line, and their goal was clear, which was the synthesized elemental gems. The battle is about to break out. Pokémon began to release the power of various elements, and elements such as wind blades, flames, and icicle spears all appeared. Not to be outdone, the men of the dark forces also cast powerful dark spells, and the scene fell into a fierce confrontation. Kong Xian and Yuang stood together and cooperated with each other to repel the dark forces men. Their tacit cooperation and firm determination inspire the Pokémon and make them more tenacious to resist the invasion of darkness. Carol stood at the core of the academy and released the power of the lightning element, arcing across the arc and knocking down the men of the dark forces to the ground. His power was fully demonstrated, which doubled the pressure on the dark forces. The battle lasted for a long time, and the men of the dark forces kept coming, seemingly without end. The Pokémon felt tired, but their faith was firm and their determination never wavered. Suddenly, a huge wave of dark energy came from a distance, and a leader of the dark forces appeared on the battlefield. His power surpasses that of ordinary men and is formidable. The leader of the dark forces launched an attack on Carol, releasing the power of dark spells in an attempt to seize the lightning elemental gem. Undaunted, Carol gathered all the electrical energy and formed a huge arc, launching a fierce duel with the leader of the dark forces. At that moment, the thunder and soaring in the sky merged with spark to form a spectacular picture. Carl's lightning elemental power collided with the dark force's dark power, erupting into dazzling light. "Please give me flowers." The Pokémon were dumbfounded, sometimes nervous and sometimes excited, because this duel was related to the peace of the entire continent. Kong Xian and Yuang continued to stand firm and protect the synthesized gems from harm. They know that they can only be truly safe until Carol defeats the leader of the dark forces. Time seemed to freeze and the battle lasted for a long time. In the end, Carl's electric power gradually suppressed the leader of the dark forces, and he launched the final blow, completely defeating the leader of the dark forces. The darkness can disperse, and soaring in the sky regains its brightness. The soaring in the sky of Yanhuang continent slowly turned to light blue after the battle, and the dark energy that gradually dissipated in the air was replaced by warm sunlight, making it look particularly peaceful and peaceful. A few clouds floated past like marshmallows. They passed quietly over the battlefield, as if praying for the college that had just experienced the war. In the courtyard of the academy, traces of the fierce battle can be seen everywhere. The charred ground, broken trees and still burning flames are all witnesses of that battle. Period. Chapter 299, Restoring the Peace of the Past. But people in the college have already begun busy repair work to restore the past tranquility of the college as soon as possible. Kong Xian walked to Yuang, looked at her soft blue hair, and said softly, "Yuang, we won this battle." Yuang smiled slightly, his eyes shining like stars. "Yes, but this is just the beginning. The dark forces have not completely dissipated." Kong Xian nodded and held the synthetic element gem in 370 tightly in his hand. This gem will be the key to our next stage. We must ensure its safety. Yu Ying frowned slightly. I'm worried that those who want to seize the gems will appear again, and we must strengthen our precautions at this time. Carol came over. His face was tired, but his eyes were still determined. Dean, I suggest that we move the gem to a more private place to avoid causing conflicts again. Kong Xian pondered for a moment. I also have this intention, but currently there is no safer place on the Yanhuang continent than the Evergreen Pokémon Academy. Yu Ying looked into the distance and whispered, actually, I know a place. It is a secret realm on the Yanhuang continent that is difficult for outsiders to detect. I think we can hide the gems there. Both Kong Xian and Carl turned to Yu Ying, their eyes filled with anticipation. That's a place I used to play when I was a kid. It's called the Quiet Forest. Yu Ying continued, there is a mysterious lake there. The water is crystal clear. It is said that there is a secret realm at the bottom of the lake, which is a pure land on the Yanhuang continent. Kong Xian's eyes flashed. Then, we will hide the elemental gems there. Carol looked at Kong Xian, but we have to ensure the safety there and not let the dark forces discover it. The quiet forest beside the lake looks particularly peaceful under the penetration of sunlight. The Pokémon walked cautiously on the shore of the lake, bringing the synthesized elemental gems to this secret realm. Kong Xian stared at the Cianwood Lake in the lake and nodded slightly. This is indeed an excellent hiding place. The secret place at the bottom of the lake can provide additional protection for gems. Yu Ying gently stroked the lake water and said with a smile, the lake water here has a mysterious power that can resist detection and prevent outsiders from easily discovering it. Carol stood by the lake and stared at the water. He took a deep breath. But we still need to use secret methods to completely integrate the gem into the secret realm at the bottom of the lake to ensure its safety. The three of them began to chant spells, and the gems in their hands emitted a faint light, gradually integrating into the secret realm at the bottom of the lake. The lake rippled as if to celebrate the arrival of the gem. After the gems were integrated into the secret realm, the surface of the lake returned to tranquility. Even the fish in the lake were swimming freely, as if they also felt the magic of this pure land. Kong Xian breathed a sigh of relief, turned to Yu Ying and Carol and said, the gem is already safe, but we cannot take it lightly. The dark forces are still lurking in the dark. We must remain vigilant and be ready to face new challenges at any time. Yu Ying nodded. 3.5. The Dean is right, we cannot relax. The dark forces will not give up easily, and we must be prepared for the long term. Carol stared at the lake, his eyes firm. I will guard here at any time to protect the safety of the gems. The three of them communicated in tacit understanding. They knew that this gem represented the peace of Yanhuang continent and also represented the hope of Pokémon. Period. Chapter 300. Don't panic, everyone. They must guard this hope together until the dark forces are completely defeated. Just as they were about to leave, suddenly, a faint sound came from the lake. They listened intently and saw a Pokémon emerging from the lake, its body emitting a soft light. Pokémon floated in the air and said in a soft voice, thank you for integrating gems into this secret realm. This will be an eternal home, and those who protect it will be blessed. The three of them looked at each other and felt a warm feeling in their hearts. They know that these 14 secret areas are not only safe places for gems, but also shelters for Pokémon, a place that can be protected forever. Moon Shadow smiled and said to Pokémon, we will always guard this place and protect this blessing. The Pokémon nodded, then gently floated into the lake and gradually disappeared. Kong Xian looked into the distance, knowing that this battle was just the beginning. The threat of dark forces still existed, but they had hope, faith, and support for each other. He turned around and left the silent forest side by side with Moon Shadow and Carol, returning to the Evergreen Pokémon Academy. Behind them, the secret realm in the lake quietly guards the synthetic elemental gem, which will continue to play a role in protecting the peace of the continent forever. Yu Ying, Kong Xian, and Carol left the secluded forest by the lake and returned to the Evergreen Pokémon Academy. Returning to the hall of the college, they can feel the tranquility in the college. A variety of pastries and tea were placed on the long table in the hall, and a group of young Pokémon students were gathering together, laughing and joking. Seeing Kong Xian and others returning, they immediately stood up to show respect. Kong Xian smiled and greeted them. Thank you for your hard work. I hope you can enjoy this tranquility. The students thanked each other and continued to enjoy the delicious afternoon tea. Yu Ying walked aside, chatted with a female student, and asked about the latest developments in the college. Carolder walked to the window and stared at the scenery outside the window. Looking out of the window, you can see the garden inside the college. The flowers are swaying in the breeze, and the sun shines on the leafage, creating mottled light and shadow. After a while, Yuang and the female students ended their conversation and walked towards Carl. She said, "Carl, the dean is right, we must remain vigilant, but we must not forget to enjoy life." Carolder nodded, "Yes, Yuang, I understand. While protecting the mainland, we must also protect this tranquility and beauty." Yuang smiled and patted Carolder on the shoulder. "Okay, don't worry too much, everything will be fine." Just as they continued to talk, the door to the hall was suddenly pushed open, and a Pokémon rushed in with an anxious look on its face after seeing Kong Xian, Yuang and Carl 033. This Pokémon quickly ran over and gasped, "Dean, someone broke into the academy and they are heading towards the location of the gym." Kong Xian's face darkened, and he stood up immediately. "What? Take me there quickly, Yuang." And Carol followed closely behind. They followed the Pokémon through the corridors of the academy and came to the room where the gem was located. In the room, a group of Pokémon students were desperately resisting a group of dark invaders. The Pokémon of the Dark Force are holding weapons, and the atmosphere is tense and intense. As soon as Kong Xian entered the room, he immediately showed his strong leadership qualities. He shouted loudly, "Don't panic, everyone, protect the gems." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.